Today, I would like to talk about the art of patience. Now, when it comes to filmmaking, making videos, basically anything creative, the art of patience is very, 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 very important because you're not going to be a Christopher Nolan overnight. You are not going to be a Steven Spielberg, a Edward Zwick, what else? Who else do I know? A James Cameron. Patience is the key to survival in this industry. So here we go.
Patience is a virtue.
Welcome back again. Thank you for coming back to this channel. Please comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't. And again, I do appreciate you coming back and listening to this guy. Hopefully your friendly neighborhood video guy. Ooh, I just stole Spider-Man. Am I gonna be deleted? Probably not. Anyway, so yeah, patience. We're gonna talk about patience. So I want to break down today into basically 3 parts. So you need to be patient when you're learning how to film. You need to be patient when you learn how to edit. And you definitely need to be patient when you are learning to communicate. Now, I'll break it down even more when we get into the communication portion of this video, but those are the 3 parts that I think will kind of help anyone that's kind of making this a career or a hobby / into a career, or you're in it already and you have some basically clogs in your career, and you want to push forward and basically get better, right? You want to get paid doing what you love, but in order for you to do that, there is some level of comfortability, and there's also some level of learning yourself, learning what you're good at, learning what are your strengths and weaknesses, and kind of pushing through that. So it's a learning process, hence why this episode is all about patience. So number 1, patience in filming. Now, during my tenure at Propeller USA, the Japanese video production company that I was a part of, I had the opportunity to train new recruits and new hires. And for the most part, anytime when we recruit someone new, there was always a high possibility that the cameras that we're using at Propeller at the time and what they're accustomed to is very different. So the ones that are seasonally trained to be a shooter, they can probably adapt faster. So, they, first of all, they got their basics down. Basics video. Click it if you don't know what I'm talking about. So they got their foundational down and they can adapt easily to different camera workflows, different brands, whether it's a Sony, Canon. I don't think I've used a Nikon, but I'm not a fan of it. No offense, Nikon. I'm a Canon guy.
Not a fan.
But we were using at the time Canons and Sonys, so we had to get ourselves acclimated to, the flow of how a Canon would feel in your hand or a Sony would feel in your hand. And I'm not just talking about like the DSLR cameras. I'm talking about like the FX5, the FX, is it 5? Oh crap, let me look that up. Shit, I forgot my cameras. FS5. There you go. It's the FS5. The FS5. Yeah, I remember the FS5. And before that, we had, I can't remember it for the life of me. It was basically Sony type camcorders that would shoot in 24p and as well as 30p. And, we also had DSLR cameras. And then we slowly moved into the mirrorless spectrum. So with that being said, the one thing that I always mention to all the new recruits is that it's going to take time. It's going to take time to get acclimated, to make it feel natural. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of, shooters and filmers right off the bat, when they pick up the camera, their first impulses is like, I want to be creative. And it's like their brain is moving faster than what their physical capabilities can do. So they want to be creative, but they can't physically execute the shot because, again, they're not acclimated to filming using a particular camera. But, that being said, once either if you're working for a company or you buy your own gear, once you get acclimated, then, because it becomes like almost like instinct, impulse, right? Like once you hold that camera, you think of a shot and you want to film it, you're like, the functionality becomes like as part of you. It becomes like a very naturally, instinctively that you'll flip it, your aperture, your shutter, your focal, and like you get everything. It becomes one. You become one with the camera, basically.
One of one.
So until you get one with the camera, there's going to be stumbles and fumbles, and there's going to be a portion of your time getting acclimated to the situation. Now, this comes with, having more experience with cameras. If you're starting out, you're not going to get it right off the bat. The first thing when you pick up the camera, you're probably going to be like, oh, where's the ISO? Oh, my shot's too bright, let me lower the aperture, and then you're like, oh, where, you're gonna stumble. Like you may not know where the ISO is, you may not know where the aperture is, you may not know even where the freaking focus button is, or focus ring for that matter. So patience, man. Like you just have to build some form of patience right off the bat. One thing that I do want to point out, that once you're getting acclimated to any camera system, is that you need to feel at a point where when you pick up the camera, you're not thinking about where's my ISO, where is my aperture, where is my focal button or ring, right? When you pick it up, it has to come naturally. That's when you know you're there. Because if you don't, and let's say if you're scheduled to go on a shoot, or you're booked for a shoot, or you're getting paid to do some work, and you're not comfortable holding that camera and doing what you are paid to do, or tasked to do, then you'll get in trouble. And the reason why I say this is because when you're comfortable with the camera, you are better equipped to allow your brain to be more creative, meaning that you can take the client or whoever's concept that you're making into video, you can comfortably make your creative judgment, and that way you will be comfortably making a great piece of art. Because if you're not comfortable with the technical aspect, then basically you're going to be screwed in a nutshell. So I would always stress that if you're going to pick up the camera, make sure you're super 100% comfortable. When you're picking up that camera, you know what you're doing. You're not just fondling around, acting like you know it, because it's better to be truthful than to fumble and stumble and make basically a fool out of yourself. Building that patience in filming will definitely help your future self in the long run. So the second one is patience in editing, video editing in particular. So I remember during my, infancy into this career, a project that usually would take a seasoned professional 30 minutes to complete would take me at the time probably, 4 to 5 hours. And that grew a lot of frustration on my part, and that caused a lot of the how should I put this, decisions going into making that video frustrating, because I was not equipped in the sense where I was not comfortable editing with the editing platform at the time. And I'm talking specifically of Avid. I was trained in Avid in college, and it wasn't too appealing to me. And then once I got into knowing what Final Cut is about, that's when I got into a little bit more of a groove, because I could understand, and Final Cut 7 at the time was basically very, I would say in the case, user-friendly for a lot of editors. So a lot of editors chose that platform as their go-to platform for creating stuff. So in a nutshell, what I've learned in that process is that, one, you gotta be patient when it comes to editing skills as well. And what I mean by this is understanding the platform. Me personally, I did not understand Avid. I mean, I did in theory, but it didn't give me that creative freedom in terms of how the platform flows for me. So hence why I moved into Final Cut. And then later down the years, I moved into Adobe. Well, actually, technically, I used Adobe when I was like college in Malaysia. And then I slowly shifted back to Adobe when it was widely available. So, but one thing that I do remember is that the one thing that I learned to be patient with is remembering shortcuts. So if you're an editor and if you're doing a lot of video editing work, one thing that sets you apart from most editors, I think, is understanding your shortcuts and your workflow. So it's hopefully I can make a video on video editing. A lot of the projects that I work on has some, legality when it comes to like showing the types of projects I'm working on. So once I do find a project that I can visually put it on YouTube, I'll go ahead and do it. Or I can just come up with some of the content that I've been creating personally and then use that as a platform to kind of show you what I'm talking about. But in a nutshell, having the library of shortcuts in your head would actually set you apart from most editors, because I remember when I first started out as a video editor, I was like, you probably know what I'm talking about. Like, this is your in point, this is your out point, and then you drag your clip in. But as you watch how different people, conduct their edits, how I had the luxury, or actually I had the opportunity to learn from different people in terms of how they edit, and I chose their way of editing and incorporating it into my way of editing, and that way I built my own style of editing. And I'm talking about creativity, I'm talking about the technical aspects, so like shortcuts, placing your program monitor and your edit monitor, how you rearrange your audio, how to get organized when you're, sub-clipping different clips from different clips. So it takes patience to learn from others, and also incorporating what you think that would best suit you into your workflow. And that will take time, because once you learn your workflow and how you can be more efficient, then that goes back to my first point, is once your hands touch your keyboard when you're going to edit, it has to feel second nature. Like, it just comes out right at the bat. It's like almost like playing the piano, right? You're just playing. You're not even thinking about, this is my shortcut, shortcut for this spacebar. It naturally just comes to you, and that way it allows you to be more creative, and your creative vision will pop out in the edit suite. Same thing for shooting as well. Second nature in the platform and in your shortcuts goes hand in hand. Second nature in picking up a camera and being creative while you're holding the camera. So I hope that helps, especially for if you're starting out to edit. And this is one thing that I noticed too, like a lot of shooters don't really like to edit, and a lot of editors don't really like to shoot. And I'm actually an editor who prefers to edit more than actually shooting. But at the same time, I know if I don't get the right shot that I like, then my edits is not going to be as great. So if I'm shooting to edit. And if I am outsourcing a shoot, I'm making sure I'm picking the right people that would allow me to get more creative with their shots in the edit suite. So yeah, I hope that helps. And yeah, just learning to be more comfortable with the software, your shortcuts in your edits, will go a long way. And it goes hand in hand to what I was talking about for the first point, is patience in filming. Third is patience in communication. Now, you know how to shoot, you know how to edit. But if you are, let's say, if you're part of a production team for a company, you want to be somewhat patient in either receiving information and also presenting information. Now, what do I mean by this? So let's say if you're in a production company and your production company has acquired a project from client A to make a product shoot on clothing. Now, this clothing brand might be, very niche, very goth, and you need to listen in order for you to comfortably understand what the client wants. Now, when I say communication, I don't just mean talking. I also mean listening. So patience in communication is super important when it comes to listening too. And this is, for me, I guess, one of my strong suit is that I'm a good listener. I don't read books. I actually listen to a lot of audiobooks. So I actually gain more information when I listen. So if you're not a good listener, but you're a very good speaker, maybe you should work on being a good listener, and vice versa too. I'm a good listener, but I'm not necessarily the greatest speaker, as I'm working on this YouTube channel, right? So I'm working on it, and it's always a work in progress, but I have patience to do so. So one thing that I've learned, if you're patient enough to listen, you will have a good response and patient enough to give the proper response to your clients. Now, this is important because if you're dealing with any situation, whether it's a client's needs, you're able to absorb it and produce it in a way where they are satisfied with the project. And vice versa, if you're on a shoot and you're directing certain subjects, not necessarily a model, but it could be, auntie and uncle who, hey, want to be in a video, but we don't have budget to hire models, so we're gonna call auntie and uncle to be in the video. So you need to be, patient and communicate the direction that you want to give them, right? So you need to have patience because they're not professional models, right? They're gonna do things that are not typically known to people that are not professional models, right? Like if you tell a model, like, hey, give me 5 pose, and they know what to do, so they can do it for you. But if you're working with auntie and uncle who happen to be the cousin of one of the production assistants to be part of the video, then you gotta be patient with them and communicate your direction well, so that your vision can translate into filming. And same thing with editing too. If you have the patience to communicate, listening and speaking, the one thing that I can think of is revision. So like in editing, for example, if you are in communication with your client and having that being a good listener and being an effective speaker, you can make revisions. Let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. So if you're a good listener and if you're an effective communicator, the process of revising your projects in the edit suite or during your edit time, it will be minimal. If you can't do that, you're talking about like revision 1, revision 2, revision 3, revision 4. And granted, some you may be a good communicator, but maybe the client is not a good communicator, then, that's a different story. But as long as you're doing your part and, not blowing out on your client just because, simple miscommunication, then, you're in a good spot. But yeah, don't blow out on your client. That's never a good thing, and it never works well in the long run. Not that I've done it, but I've heard horror stories of what people have done in the past. So learning from others' mistakes, that's a side tip. Don't do what others did that would make you look bad. So yeah, that's be a good communicator. So there you have it, the art of patience in filming, editing, and also communication. I hope this video helps you navigate through your frustrations when it comes to being a better shooter, being a better video editor, and also being a front-facing client. No, not a front-facing client, you ding-dong. Typically I swear, but I don't, because I do have 2 young kids. So when I say ding-dong, you definitely know what I mean. But anyway, I'm gonna do this again. So there you have it, the art of patience in filming, editing, and communication. I hope this video helps any one of you, whether you're starting out, in the middle of your career, or growing it into a career, to kind of navigate those frustrating points and knowing that it takes time to get better at your craft. It took me time, a lot of time, and I'm in a position where I can kind of share some of my experience. And yeah, hit me down in the comments down below. Please comment, like, and subscribe this channel. I hope I bring value to any aspiring video creator, content creator, filmmaker, even photography too. I started dabbling into photography in the past 2 years, so I'm learning the ins and outs too. So, again, but understanding and being patient, that the process takes time, does help me, and I hope that this video will kind of bring patience to the forefront in your journey. So I hope this helps, and thank you again for watching, and I will see you again. Peace. Patience.